Hey guys, it's mcfixit here. We're going to be working on a disc die today. We're going to be dyeing this stencil onto this disc. This disc is an Instinct by Discmania. Very well loved disc. Lots of scrapes and things like that, but a pretty good beat-in disc. So we'll be erasing everything on it and going and putting on a Cricut cut stencil. It's kind of hard to see on here, but it looks like that. G Squad is a company you can actually buy disc from as well. It's Gravity, and my buddy's part of the G Squad, Joel, and so doing this for him. And so we'll show you all the steps, all the process on how to do this. And so the tools and stuff that you'll need, you're going to want whatever disc you want. Can be beat up, doesn't really matter. I will say the more beat up it is, sometimes the harder. I mean, it's very well used. The harder it's going to be for some of it to work. This stencil is quite complex. It may not look that way, but it really actually is. So we will do our very best to get it to look as close to that as possible. It was cut on a Cricut with 5160. And so you just kind of measure it up and make that happen. I do have a transfer paper. You can just literally take your disc, do a big Sharpie, and I put some crosshairs on it. It does normally help get things how I want it to be. We're going to be using the hotbed method. I do not normally leave it on the hotbed, especially with any heat on. You can really damage your disc and it can warp it and stuff like that. So I'm not inside today. I'm out of my garage. So we're going to be using this fantastic $14, $15 burner. All the tools and supplies are linked down below in the description. So we'll be using that. This is just an old kitchen pan. You will want to make sure your disc does fit down in it, which this one does. Fantastic. You want something to weed and something to scrape. You can also use a credit card. I think I already mentioned the Sharpie is helpful. Lots and lots of paper towels. I mean, you might as well just go ahead and rip off a good solid 10, 15 of them. You're probably going to need it, especially if this is one of your first times. And so just have those nice, handy, ready to rock and roll. We're going to be using iDye poly. So this is half of a black one. I filled a mason jar full with warm water and put half of the packet in. I got half of it left. I've been through about probably 12, 13 dyes, and this is just about half full. So in another week or two with more dyes, I might have to put the other one in and fill it up with warm water. A funnel is really helpful to get it back in there. Make sure you got a good lid on this too. There's no acetone, just strictly water in there. Water and Dawn dish soap. You fill it mostly full with water, put a little Dawn dish soap in there, and a nice little squeeze trigger. Does help kind of keep everything nice and clean. Gloves, these ones have been used a couple of times, which I do reuse them. You can even see I have some leftover 5160 vinyl on my hand. Acetone, if you're going to be removing anything on your disc, stamp, all that kind of stuff, acetone is the way to go. Don't get the cheap stuff. I like to get the good stuff. It comes in a nice big bottle. And so this is how you do it. Go ahead and pop the top off. You will want to make sure you remove any stamp on your disc that you don't want on there. And a couple of times gives you just about bigger than a quarter. And we're removing all of it. So just in kind of a circular motion. And I am going to probably clean the whole disc with acetone, since I already am taking the whole thing off. Acetone works really well, but I'll tell you what, don't leave it on there. So that's good right there. And what I mean by don't leave it on there, always clean up after it. It can eat through plastic. A couple sprays on a paper towel or directly onto the disc. This right here will just help clean up your disc. Just like so. Like I said, you're going to be using paper towels. My buddy's name and number is on the back, so I am going to go ahead and cover that real quick. Fantastic. Ready to rock and roll. Cleaned, ready to go. So you can move this kind of stuff back out of the way. I do like to go ahead and warm this up. The only thing I don't like about this little skillet or little electric burner is the cord is only like 12 inches long. It's fine because I do have an outlet right here, but it does not give me the best camera angle to show you how to do this. I like to put it on about 3 or 4. And since this is about half full, I am going to dump the entire thing in, just like so. I have a little water bottle over here. You can see there's actually a lot of dye in the bottom of this. I should have shaken it up first. And so hopefully that gives me a little bit better dye. Yeah. And so paper towels help keep you clean. So this is on about 3.5, and so I'm going to set it off to the side. You still can see it over there. When it starts to steam, that's when we want that to stop. Sometimes I do get distracted as we begin to weed this. So that's your disc. This is your stencil. Go ahead and kind of set your stencil out to the side so you can see it. Whatever is comfortable and good for you, you can set it on top. This is kind of a big one, so give yourself some room. And so anything you peel up will be black. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead at about a 45-degree angle and just push this down. This may seem weird, but it does help it stick to the other side. So this is a transparent one too, and sometimes the transparent ones I am having a little more difficulty than just the white ones. Getting it to work really well. So we're going to just test this one, see how we're doing today. And so hopefully we get a really great dye. I don't know if these are just thinner because it's transparent. Wow, that actually pulled up really good right there. Do be careful pulling up too much at once. It is very easy to do, and you can easily ruin your stencil. And so this is having a lot come up at once, so I'm trying to be very careful, not pulling too much up. So go slow. This one is going to be really hard for you to see because a lot of them are actually got blue backgrounds. And so this one is a white background with a clear transparent vinyl, which looks really cool and actually helps you line up a little bit better, but is also kind of difficult to see on camera. So we want the big part of the S to come out, so the whole S. And then there are a couple of little pieces to the side on that S. So there's one of them. There's one right here as well. And then there's one underneath, just like so. The Q, we want to leave this top piece, because this one needs to be white, and then this one is black. So that comes out just like that, and then this part of the Q comes out. And part of the side already came out, so that's awesome when we were pulling the whole thing. The U is in good shape, so the A needs to come out, and so it is this bottom part on the A. And you really do want to get kind of down in there when you're doing this. It is very easy to try to just do it too high and it's hard to see. This is a pretty big stamp, but still you want to kind of get down in there. So I'm sorry if my head sometimes gets in the way. You really do just have to use whatever you got to help out. So lots of the D comes out, like the whole letter, except the center. Fantastic. Then a part of this comes out, which is this section right here. A lot of times the letters that have like the little parts, such as right here, some of this sometimes can be very, very tricky to get out. So just kind of going back over everything, making sure it's as good as it can be. Some of these little parts will not show up. I'm just giving you a heads up. And that is beginning to smoke. We'll go ahead and turn that off. I like to go ahead and unplug it as well. That's just a little bit of safety for you. So, liking how that looks. The next thing you can do, couple of different things you can do. You can put it on here. It's so helpful if your disc is really clear. This one is not particularly clear. So what I might end up doing instead, because I already have these markings on this, is I probably will try to line this up with the center of that. So this is that transfer paper. I'm gonna do something else real quick. No, I'm not. I changed my mind. So, because this is on a wood little table, I'm gonna scoot this off to the side. It was just beginning to boil just a touch. I don't want it to boil. That's way too hot. And so, sorry about that. I'm going to do my best to guess exactly where center is and push down nice and firm. I really wish this clear one was on that blue background. It would make this a lot easier to see, especially if you have used your transfer paper as much as I have. So that whole design, you're going down at about a 45-degree angle. You can also hit up the back side as well. You don't have to worry too much about the edges. They'll work themselves out in a few moments. So we'll go ahead and begin to peel this. And remember, it's clear, so both these, the transfer paper is clear and this is clear. So as you're pulling it and you're getting closer to the design, you're really going to want to be careful to make sure you're pulling all of it up. If not, go ahead and scrape some more of it. That U's giving me some issues, so I'm going to go a little different angle. Sometimes that helps as well when you're pulling stuff up. Now, it's really hard to tell, but you kind of can see it if you look really closely on that. So, I'm going to go ahead and put my disc down. And we're going to do our best to line this up nice and perfect with that G as close to center as possible. And I always push down real hard on that center area. And then this is where you want to get a lot of these air bubbles out, but we're really going to focus on the air bubbles in a minute. So go ahead and flip this over, and you're going to peel one piece from the other, and you're just going to stick it back here and just kind of rotate this around. This will help kind of keep it from spilling onto the back side as well if you do it just like this. And so you just kind of peel from one of the corners and just kind of go around. Especially if this is not your disc, you don't want to have boo-boos and mess-ups on it. It is possible. I mean, dyeing disc is kind of an art. It's not necessarily a science, and it really is easy to mess some of it up. So now we're just going to spend some time really going over this good. And that's going to help lock it down. Then we'll really work on getting some air bubbles out. So I always find it helps if it's about a 45-degree angle. So if this was white, you would really be able to see it. Save your transfer paper. You can reuse this 10-15 times easily. So now we have to be really careful, making sure we get all of the air bubbles on the side. You can use your hand, sometimes that's helpful. And I did notice one area that did not get picked up, which is right here. This little piece right here. That was it. Guess I missed that earlier, which is very possible. The other thing, because of where this thing sits, it's actually over some of the wording. Sometimes if it happens that it's like it gets down and under that, and so you do want to try to get all of the air bubbles, get that nice and firm press down in there. Again, I'm not certain if I really like the clear transfer paper yet. I did mess up one disc with it already, so I was kind of mad about that, but that can easily happen with pretty much any disc. It was just an extra little piece. And again, you're just really trying to make sure everything looks nice and firm on there. None of the letters, you do want to go down at different angles to make sure none of the letters have anything. And any air bubbles close by to the edge are the ones you really have to worry about. If it's more than like a 1/4 inch away, I don't really worry about it. But it's the ones that are close that you really want to be careful with. So once you feel like you are good and set on that, I like to go ahead and flip it over. And I use a little bit of blue tape anywhere I don't have the vinyl. It just adds a little extra layer of protection. And then I get about a 8-inch piece. And then I kind of gently fold it in half, about an inch or so. And then put it down like that. It gives you a nice little handle, gives you little wings to hold on to. When you feel like you're all good, all the air bubbles that you can get are out, you go ahead and just set it down in. And one thing you don't have to do, I know some people like to put weights and stuff on it. You don't have to do that, especially how this is. You just set it like that and go ahead and let this thing sit for a good solid 5 minutes. Set timer. So that's been 5 minutes. We'll go ahead and lift it up and just kind of blot it to see where we are at. It does look like we're going to need a couple more minutes on this one. Since this is cooled down, I am going to put this back under it. Again, this is not on, not even plugged in. So we're going to let that sit for another couple of minutes. go ahead and check it one more time. It's been a few minutes and a little bit warmer. It's a little darker, but I'm going to go ahead and let it sit a little bit longer. Okay, let's go ahead and lift this up. And we'll go ahead and start to dry it around the edges there. I'm just going to go ahead and put that face down. Go ahead and get the edge and lip of this, and then we'll flip it over. And at this point, if there's any parts that you want it to actually, and I think I do, it doesn't seem like it got super dark right there. I'm going to put it back down for another minute or two. I did tap on it just a little bit. I think there might have been a little bit of an air bubble. Okay, let's go ahead and lift this back up. And I'm going to go ahead and wipe it again. And then we'll go ahead and scoot this off to the side. Remember, that's unplugged, so you just don't want to knock it off. Get a couple more paper towels out. Told you you need a lot. This stuff does just kind of rip and tear pretty easily. I do think I like the white 5160s better than this transparent stuff. It's not bad, it's just not as good, I don't think. And then you want to go ahead and weed out all of the parts. So like the G needs weeded out. But then parts of here will still need weeded out. Sometimes they come off when you're pulling the whole thing, sometimes they don't, so you just kind of got to look for it. I do know some people leave these in a lot longer than I do. I will say the one issue I've ran into leaving them in like long periods of time, hour or more, is that the issue I've had is sometimes you get the little pieces start leaking a little bit. And there's not much you can do about that. This is where I think possibly had a little bit of an air bubble because it's just not as dark here as it was in so many of the other places. So sometimes under the disc in the water with the dye, you can get little air bubbles. So I do think that's maybe what happened there. This would be a lot easier to see what you had left to peel off if it was white instead of clear. The clear just kind of looks like the blue. So you really do have to kind of look at some different angles to see it. But I'm really liking how this one turned out. You could also do some kind of like spin dye around it if you wanted, or anything like that. You do have a lot of options, especially since you took most of the original stamp off. There wasn't much left of it, but just to give it some more character, that's definitely a pretty easy thing you could do. But overall, it looks really awesome. It's a really cool little stamp that they have on some of their disc there. So hit up their website if you're looking for some new disc. I don't get paid by them. I'm not sponsored by them. My buddy is on their little team squad, so that's why I'm doing this disc for him. Little Dawn dish soap water just helps clean up the disc. Gets any of the excess dye that actually didn't dye into it, which you can easily get in lots of different places. And then one final go over, and that right there is done. You will want to make sure that you put this in once it cools down. So since I'm outside, I'm just going to let it sit. Then you just put your funnel in, pour it back in, cap it up. Once it is cool, it's still going to be a little warm on that hot pad. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions or comments, please put them down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Get out there and play some disc golf.